Hello everybody, welcome to a D3+2 test battle report where I'm going to be trying out some Horde Mode rules that I've thought up for the game, just giving them a go on a very simple battlefield. I'll go over the rules and then I'll go over the armies. I'm going with the theme of Nurgly, Deathguardy, zombie-filled army attacking an entrenched Imperial defense line. So we will go over the rules, but I'm just doing an overview of the table we're deploying on here. So, the defending army gets a compulsory Aegis. It doesn't need to be connected as long as it's in a line. That is a 12-inch deployment if you count from the line to the edge of the table there. That is all they get for deployment. They should also have minimal terrain because I think it would be a bit too overpowered if they had tons of terrain to hide in. And the attacker gets double the points, so that's roughly about 1600 points. But they attack in waves, a la, Horde modes from popular Imperial games. That's kind of what I'm emulating here. So the first line, which is 12 inches back and marked by this line of dice here, that marks the point at which plague zombies will appear on the battlefield. That is to represent them coming out the ground to attack the fortified Imperial position, and also to account for the fact that zombies can only move 6 and are stone purposeful, so they can't run. The second line is the pretend second edge of the battlefield, where the rest of the waves will come on from other than plague zombies. So that's a rough overview. We'll go over the more intricate details now. And by the way, if you can think of any way to improve upon what I'm about to list here, feel free to share in the comments. Also, if you think something is a bit too imbalanced, feel free to point that out also. I'm looking over at my written notes here. So I think I've covered most of everything actually. Special rules. The defending side can't have any deep strike. That just seems like the fairest thing for me. They can have monstrous creatures, they can have high AV vehicles, etc. But to counter that, I'm considering the whole of the attacking forces having poison +6, and also the touch of rust rule that plague bearers have. That means that they can auto glance a vehicle on a 6. That is just so that you basically can't cheese the system by having something that's basically immune to what's coming in the first few waves, because the first few waves go easy on you and they get gradually harder as things go on. The game also lasts the full 7 turns, assuming that the defending player can survive. So how do victory points work? The defender gets 1 victory point per turn after turn 1 that they survive, so that's a maximum of 6 possible. They can also get Slay the Warlord. The attacker gets 1 victory point for every unit killed, or that's ran off the board or is running at the end of turn 7. They can also get Slay the Warlord, and they get 3 victory points if they manage to wipe out the whole of the defender side. I know that's technically an insta-win, but I wanted to give it a numeric value. I think that's it in terms of special rules, etc. Oh, also that knife fighting must be on turn 1 to give the first wave of attackers a chance, because we're talking about, you'll see what the first wave is once I deploy. I'm going to go over the army list I've written up to be the defenders, 750 points, that's not including the Aegis that you get by default to mark the edge of your terrain, as it were. I don't think I'll go over the waves in detail, but I can give you a very brief look. The various waves that are going to be attacking is going to be made up of various models out of that selection, and it does equal roughly 1600 points, give or take, when you add in some war gear I've thrown in. So we'll go over the Space Marine list in a second. Okay, so here we have 750 points of Ultramarines, or Space Marines if you prefer. I actually wrote this list prior to thinking up this Horde Mode game that I'm just, trialing here in the purposes of this very simple battle report. So I don't think it's particularly good for it. But I'm going to run with it anyway, and also there will be a chance, if you can think of ways to improve the enemy attack waves, or indeed can think up a 750 point army list using one of the other armies I have, so either Space Marines or... feel free to share it and I will give it a go on camera. And if you don't know which models I have access to, check out the army showcases. So anyway, I'm being led by, sadly, I don't have a Librarian model painted, so this is just going to be representing, it's a company champion from the command box set that I've slightly customised. He is going to be a Mastery Level 2 Psyker with Melta Bombs. I haven't rolled for his Psychic powers yet, I'll probably just roll on Biomancy for the heck of it. Troop choice number 1, 5-man Scout Squad, 4 Sniper Rifles, 1 Missile Launcher. Troop choice number 2, 10-man Tactical Squad. No Veteran Sergeant upgrade, so it's just a bog standard one. Plasma Gun and Missile Launcher in the squad. Dreadnought with 2 twin-linked autocannons. Then we have 5-man Tactical Terminator Squad with 1 Heavy Flamer. And then we have a Whirlwind. So again, possibly not ideal for what they're about to face. You shall see as we begin with Wave 1. So here we are at deployment, including wave 1 of the Horde side, the attackers, being on the table. I rolled for Psychic Powers on the Space Marine Librarian. He got Endurance and Enfeeble, and he also got the Storm of Fire Warlord trait, which may or may not be useful, I don't know. So wave 1 is 10 Plague Zombies, and 10 Plague Zombies. They are deployed 12 inches away on that first line I talked about in the overview. That is to represent them coming out the ground, as I also said. Every other wave that appears on start of each turn comes on as if they were coming on from reserves from this line, which is another 12 inches away. That means at maximum an enemy unit is going to be 24 inches away when it gets onto the table. That seemed fairest to me, so that, you know, there's not turns wasted moving necessarily, but we'll see how it goes. It depends on the wave makeup, I suppose, and we'll see if that's fair or not. I have kind of planned it out. I'm not 100% sure who is fairest to get first turn, so I'm going to count that the attacker gets first turn. Now obviously that's just going to be the zombies shambling forward 6 inches, or up to 6 if they're going through terrain there. So I'll just do an end of turn overview once the Space Marines have also had their turn, to see if wave 1 was wiped out before wave 2 could get on the table. Okay, at the end of the first turn for both the attackers and the defenders, there is only 3 Plague Zombies left on the table. But that's kind of the point, because this is in waves, so therefore it is supposed to go easy on the defender at the start. Also, the attacker does not automatically lose if everything on the field is wiped out for their side because of the escalating nature of the mission. So yeah, no damage was done to the Space Marine line. I did kind of show it off there after I finished talking in the overview. The main proponent of the squad that was over there getting destroyed was getting Enfeeble off on them, which lowered their toughness to 2, and therefore meant that they didn't get Feel No Pain against any of the bolter fires. I also used the Tactical Doctrine, so the Tactical Squad was re-rolling all misses, and everyone else was re-rolling 1s. So yeah, 3 zombies left alive, and that's basically because they were kind of hidden behind the Destroyed Aquila there, and also night fighting applied to some of the shots coming from the Terminators, etc. So there we go, and what is coming in on turn 2 for the attacker side, the Deathguard? Wave 2 is 5 Chaos Space Marines with Mark of Nurgle, and 5 more Plague Zombies. Now I'm aware that you can't actually have cutlass squads lower than 10, so if you did want to maybe make this a bit more in line with proper rules, buff up that to another 10, but I'm going to test 5 and see how it goes. At the end of the attacker's turn 2, the Plague Zombies moved through cover. They then did a charge through cover against the scouts. They almost took a wound on the way in, but luckily Feel No Pain helped them out. In combat, because the scouts were going first, 2 zombies were killed before they got a chance to hit, and then the final zombie there tried to eat one of the brains of the scouts, and sadly they made their armor save. But they are still stuck in combat. He did not run and was not overrun, so that has taken the scouts out of play for their next turn. The new squad of 5 Plague Zombies, they simply move forward, and remember, when the new wave comes on, it's as if they were just standing off the field, or in the zombies' case they just popped out, so they do get to move the turn they arrive from the actual edge. So the 5 Chaos Space Marines with Mark of Nurgle, they started roughly there, so for their turn they moved up into cover. They then took 5 pot shots over at the Tactical Marines behind the Aegis there, and armor saves were made. So now we'll go on to the Space Marines turn 2. At the end of the second turn for the defenders, the 1 remaining Plague Zombie was bashed in by the scouts. They then kind of consolidated back to roughly how they were standing. The Tactical Terminators wanted to hop over the barrier and start moving out because they've got a heavy flamer that's basically doing nothing. However, they rolled really badly, so they didn't get very far. They did take some pot shots with their Stormbolters that could see them into the Chaos Terminators, but they only had to make a couple of saves and they were fine. The 5 Plague Zombies that were there were once again annihilated thanks to a mixture of combined bolter fire and also Enfeeble getting off on them again. The Whirlwind did also fire at the Chaos Space Marines, but the shot missed massively. I think I probably should have made that wave another 10 zombies, and to reflect that, as we end turn 2, which means that the defending side, the Space Marines, now have 1 point. Wave 3 is in the form of 10 more Plague Zombies. It was originally 5, however I have bumped it up because I think for balance that is needed. And 2 Chaos Spawn with the Mark of Nurgle. So now we will begin turn 3. End of the attacker's turn 3, the Chaos Spawn moved up their nice 12 inches into terrain there to protect them, hopefully getting a charge off on the next turn if they survive, which they should because they're Mark of Nurgle, etc. The 10 Plague Zombies that appeared here, forgive the blurriness for a second there, I was moving too fast. They charged the Terminators because they were out in the open, so why the hell not? They lost one zombie on the way in due to the overwatch from the Flamer in particular. The Stormbolters absolutely whiffed. In combat, naturally, they didn't do anything. They lost 5 or 4. How many is left? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they lost 4 zombies from the Parafist attacks that they had basically no protection from at all. However, they are fearless, which I forgot in the first turn, but it didn't matter because the zombies didn't run anyway. So they're locked in combat. The zombies will obviously get smashed to bits in the next turn, but they have tied up the Terminator squad, which may or may not be handy. The Chaos Space Marines here, hiding in the forest, they moved through cover poorly. They got like 2 inches, which was disastrous. They then took more bolter shots across the table into the Tactical Marines, and they made their saves again. So everything is pretty much fine for the defenders at this point, other than the Terminators being tied up as we go into their turn 3. End of the defenders turn 3, the Space Marines here. Enfeeble was cast on the Chaos Space Marines here. The Whirlwind then fired at them. The bolters and the plasma gun in the tactical squad all fired at them here. The plasma gun overheated, but luckily he made his save. Get hot, whatever. They did, however, lose 1 member, and that was to a stray shot from the massive bolter fire from over here. Their morale held, they didn't move. I am considering that maybe all the attackers units should be fearless, but I'm open to the suggestions on that, and considering it may not always be the Chaos side that has waves attacking if you do your own variant of this, but it's something to discuss in the comments. Elsewhere, the Dreadnought there backed up a little bit, I forgot to mention that. And the snipers all fired into the Chaos spawn down here, and they almost took out the closest one. He's down to 1 wound. The guy at the back was just fine, thanks to, toughness 6 and combined with being in the crater. He is actually in the crater, but he tipped forwards, that's why it's a bit like that. And what else happened? I think that... oh, of course, the combat! Now, because of all the combined Parafist attacks whiffing spectacularly, 1 zombie managed to survive, which is actually fantastic for the attacking side, because that's the Terminators tied up yet again. However, that is the end of the 3rd turn. That means that the defending side, the Space Marines, get 1 more victory point for surviving yet another full turn after turn 1. And then we'll go on to turn 4, so we'll see what's coming in wave 4. And this is where things start to get a little bit more escalaty. Wave 4 for the attacking side is 2 more Chaos Spawn with Mark of Nurgle, 7 Plague Marines with 1 Plasma Gun. End of the attackers turn 4, and finally the defenders have taken some casualties. So, the Chaos Spawn, the other 2 that just came on in the new wave, moved in all the way over there to try and force fire going in more than one direction. Chaos Space Marines moves up through cover again. They rolled a bit better for it this time. They took pot shots into the tactical squad and actually managed to kill 2. I got 2 failed saves there. Also I actually forgot they had Endurance cast on them at the start of the last turn. So let's quickly roll 2 feel no pains that they would have had from Endurance. It wouldn't have mattered. They're both still dead, so that is totally fine. I also forgot to do the combat there. The zombie was going to die for sure, so they'll consolidate in a second. Plague Marines came on, moved up, they took pot shots at the scouts. They actually did nothing, they did really badly with their shooting. But that didn't matter, because the 2 Chaos Spawn down here made their charge. They took no wounds on the way in from Overwatch, and they annihilated the scouts. They consolidated slightly behind the cover just to protect them from the Dreadnought there, potentially to go after him next time, I don't know. And this is the state of the battlefield after the defenders turn 4. The Terminators shot to totally no effect against the Chaos Spawn. Even the Heavy Flamer did nothing. However, they did actually then charge them and utterly smashed the both of them in combat and then consolidated to where you see them. The Dreadnought and Whirlwind both fired at the Plague Marines over here, and as you can tell, judging by the fact all 7 of them are still there, they didn't get through the saves plus feel no pain, etc. The Chaos Space Marines, however, took 1 more wound, and that's due to having Enfeeble on them again, so that was from the fire from the tactical squad there. And the Chaos Spawn up there are totally unharmed, and I think it was a mistake not to try and do some wounds to them on the way in. However, we do have the Terminators free again to do what they will. That is the end of turn 4, by the way. I forgot to mention that the attackers got a point for wiping out the scouts. However, the defenders now have 1 more point for surviving turn 4. And now we go on to what comes in at the start of turn 5 for the attackers. This is 7 more Plague Marines with a plasma gun, 5 Havocs, 4 of which have autocannons. They will count as moving on the turn they come in, so they'll be firing snapshots, but that's just the way it is. They have Mark of Nurgle. And then sadly it's an unpainted Hellbrute. I did want to have my Forge Fiend in here originally because that's painted, however I worked out that the points would be more than double what the defenders have, and that's not fair. And my dog agrees apparently. So that is what's coming in as we go into turn 5. End of attackers, turn 5, and the Hellbrute came on and moved up. I forgot to mention he is just a stock Hellbrute, so it's multi-mela and the Power Fist. He's just out of range to use his multi-mela, so he did nothing other than move forwards. The Havocs rolled really badly for their terrain roll, but they can pretty much stay there because they've got length of the board and sight due to not having a lot of obscuring cover, that's the word I'm looking for. He took pot shots, snapshots at the Dreadnought and did absolutely nothing, so he is totally fine. Now, the amazing thing that happened, you'll notice there's only one Terminator left. Well, that's the combined effort of two full squad, 7-man Plague Marine squads. You know, there is some AP2 in there as well from the plasma guns. But either way, the rolls were just bad on the saves. Too many ones. So just the Heavy Flamer is alive. His morale held, so you know, he's made of stern stuff, that's for sure. Hopefully he'll be able to do something before they inevitably take him out on the next turn. The two surviving Chaos Space Marines with Enfeeble, they moved up, took pot shots at the tactical squad, did 1 wound from memory. Now the other Chaos Spawn, they definitely should have been dealt with sooner than this. They got into close combat. Took no wounds on the way in, they took 1 wound on the attack back, and despite rolling for 4 attacks each from their mutation, the Space Marines just withstood it. Their saves survived, plus they had Feel No Pain as well if any wounds got through, because they are still buffed and hopefully will be after the next turn, which is the turn 5 for the defenders. We'll see if they can come back from this, because it is starting to look a little bleak and there is more to come from the Chaos side. End of the defenders, turn 5. Things are not looking good for the defenders now. I bet you thought it was going to be an easy win when this started. The Dreadnought took pot shots with its 2 twin-linked autocannons into the Hellbrute, did 1 pen, however it was only a 1 on the damage table. I rolled on the rage table just to get out of the way while I was reminding myself, and I got the Hellbrute recovered from Crew Stun, Crew Shaken and has rage, so really all the Dreadnought did was give it a bonus for the next turn. The surviving Terminator used its Heavy Flamer and did nothing. It was really a shame. The Whirlwind also tried to drop its pie plate roughly here. It did peg 2 of the Plague Marines, killed them both, which was really lucky. The Terminator then subsequently charged in the assault phase. He didn't take any wounds, naturally, because given how many rolls they were getting against him. He splatted 2 Plague Marines, even though they technically, they still got their Feel No Pain because they're toughness 5, etc. But still, no save. So yeah, 2 Plague Marines dead. They are fearless, so they're just stuck in combat. And that just leaves the combat here. I rolled badly for the mutation for the Chaos Spawn. They only managed to kill 1 Space Marine. In return, they did 2 wounds to this guy here. I also forgot to mention they got enhanced back on themselves and they cast Enfeeble on the Chaos Spawn, which helped getting through their high toughness. However, in casting those 2 powers, the Librarian HQ used up all his warp charges and therefore couldn't insta-kill a Chaos Spawn after he managed to get a wound through. Sadly, I wasn't thinking. So that is the end of turn 5 in total. And because they survived, that's yet another point for the defenders. So we're going to bring in the big boys now. At the start of turn 6, wave 6 as it were. Wave 6 takes the form of Typhus. Finally, the enemy commander is on the field and he is backed up by 5 Chaos Terminators. They are Mark of Nurgle with Power Axes and Combi Flamers. I just equipped them that way because that's vaguely similar to how Death Shroud Terminators are equipped, and that's what they are. This may not be fair, but they are deep striking onto the table and can move and act normally the turn they arrive, other than no assault. I'll keep that as a rule in place. So we'll see what they do as we begin turn 6. End of the attackers turn 6. The Havocs moved up and took snapshots at the Dreadnought, did nothing. The Hellbrute moved up and fired his multi-mela, only got a glance, so that's 1 hull point off of the Dreadnought. These Plague Marines, they moved up and ran for lack of anything better to do. And let's see, in the combat here, Terminator rather, stayed alive. He killed 1 Plague Marine, however. I decided it would actually be unfair if Typhus and his unit could move and act normally other than no assaulting on the turn they arrived. So I'm open to suggestions here, but I decided that they couldn't do anything on this turn, and then that gives turn 7 for them to really wreak havoc. I am, as I just said, open to suggestions about whether they can indeed fire, although even if they could fire, they couldn't really do anything. With Combi Flamers, they wouldn't be able to take out the front arm of the Whirlwind, so I don't know. The 2 Chaos Space Marines here, they moved up and ran, just for lack of anything better to do again. In the combat here, I rolled really badly for mutation. I got the 4+ armor and then attacks 1 for the 2nd turn in a row, so the Chaos Spawn didn't do anything. And in return, I'm afraid the Space Marines couldn't crack their reduced toughness, so they're still okay. 1 on 1 wound, 1 on 2. We'll see what happens now as we go on to the Defenders turn 6. At the end of the Defenders turn 6, it was a bit hit and miss all over the place. One good thing, the Dreadnought fired its twin-linked auto cannons into the Hellbrute, did 2 glances and took it out. So that's it gone. Sadly, in the combat at the end of the turn there, the Terminator got 1 wound through from the Plague Marines. He died, they consolidated 1 inch, so that's 1 more point to the attacker for fully killing off the Terminators. Let's see, what else did they do? The Whirlwind attempted to fire at this mass. Here it scattered wildly, as it has done for most of the game, basically confirming that I should not bring Whirlwinds because I always mess with them. And then in the combat here, this was a bit mixed actually. Even with the reduced strength, they only managed to do 2 wounds through to the Chaos Spawn this turn, who managed to get 5 attacks back. So 1 spawn was killed outright because it had 2 wounds remaining, that one has 1 wound. Now, I did originally roll that he killed 3 Space Marines for rolling really well. Then I remembered that they actually have Feel No Pain from Endurance. I rolled 3 5s, so that's all of them back. So they didn't actually lose anyone that turn. And that is the end of turn 6, so we're on to the first final turn of the game here. Turn 7 is when the game ends, so obviously the final wave is going to be a big bad one. So what is the final wave? The final wave for turn 7 is 3 Obliterators with Mark of Nurgle and a Demon of Nurgle with Power Armor. Now he's a bit special. Why? Because the attacker, in this case the Chaos Space Marines obviously, they're going to pick 1 Plague Marine and that becomes the Demon Prince as if he'd rolled it on the boon table. And he is free to act in any way he wants on the turn 7, the final turn, so he can assault, etc. And he's considered a separate unit from the rest of his unit. So stay tuned for turn 7 for the attackers, their final turn. End of the final attacker's turn, turn 7. And unfortunately, the Dreadnought was glanced to death by fire from the autocannons. They didn't move, so they were firing at full BS. And over here, Typhus and his Power Axe wielding Terminators charged the Whirlwind, which didn't move, so it was auto hits. They actually glanced it to death. I'm surprised that explosion didn't roll, but it didn't, so that's it, glanced to death. So that's 2 more points for the attackers there. I made the Demon join from one of the Plague Marines there, and he couldn't really do much because the only other surviving Space Marines were stuck in combat with the Chaos Spawn, so yeah, even the Obliterators coming was basically pointless. They also actually scattered wildly. I wanted them to appear further where the Demon Prince is currently. Regardless, in combat the Space Marines did actually finally manage to get that 1 wound through on the Chaos Spawn, who managed to deal nothing back thanks to having a rubbish weapon skill. So they're now free to act on their final turn, and because they cannot die, unless they suicide by running into something and losing in hand-to-hand combat, which they're not going to do, they are going to deny a total boarding. A boarding? That's not the word. Tabling, that's the word I wanted. They're going to deny a tabling, so therefore they deny the attackers 3 points, so it might actually be close, we'll see, after we very quickly do the final Defender turn. And here we are at the end of turn 7 for the Defenders. Not much happened other than I cast Endurance on them for fun, actually perilled, took a wound, cast Enfeeble on the Demon Prince, I then rapid fired the plasma gun, I fired the single shot rocket, etc, etc. Everything that would make him have to take his 5+ invuln. I rolled 3 5s, so no wins on the Demon Prince, no pride saved, and the bolter fire did absolutely nothing to him. So that is going to conclude the game. That is how the battlefield looks. And quick tally of the points. The Defenders did not get Slay the Warlord, they didn't kill Typhus, although they did only have 1 turn to do that. They would have to be in really good shape by the time he arrived to have any chance of that. I understand that, that was part of the point. So yeah, they survived turns 2 to 7, so that means they get 6 points because turn 1 does not count. And the attacking side, the Chaos side, they wiped out the Terminators, they wiped out the Scouts, they wiped out the Dreadnought, and they wiped out the Whirlwind, so that gives them 4. They didn't kill the Librarian, and the Librarian didn't kill himself, so no extra point for Slay the Warlord. So it actually means a Defender victory by 6 to 4. So, I will encourage you in the comments to suggest how to make this more fair. Were the waves fair? I think maybe they started a bit too easy and maybe escalated a bit too quickly towards the end, but we have to keep it within the turn limit of 7, so I don't think the list was ideal for the mode either. As I said, I wrote the list before I thought up trying out Horde Mode rules. I am open to feedback, and also, if you want to check out my army showcase videos where I show off every model I have for Chaos, for Space Marines and my Tau army, you can either write up a list of waves 1 to 7 for any given army, and also write up a 750 point list to help defend them, and if there's any good looking lists, or silly looking lists, or crazy lists, I'll give them a go on camera for you and see how they do. Anyway, if you watched this long, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this silly little test of a game type I've had percolating in my head for a little while. I had fun with it. It looks like it has some merit. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, as I said, and like the video if you want to support me doing more content. There's more showcases and whatnot to come. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta for now.